It's interesting what you say about owning property. It's a connection, it's a particular type of being connected to the land that has to do with private property ownership. But once that's taken away, the ability to be rooted to a place is undermined.
It's not only is it undermined, but it becomes institutionally prohibitive. The legal structures are not there to help legacy communities rematriate or repatriate their homelands, so to speak. And
it's a way to alienate people from the places they've established as their homes.
Yeah, so if one is forced out, as soon as you are out, you can no longer afford to come back. The other part of this, though, is it's not insidious, it's just a fact of life here, which is that, and I'll state it in a very blunt way, blacks with money are not all that similar to blacks without money. Blacks with money are more similar to whites with money than they are to blacks without money. So the punchline there is that class trumps race. And what you see in these transformations in these urban areas is that you can pretty much just follow the money and you will find the power, and then you look at what the power chooses to do. And Oakland's legacy communities have not, and still at this point do not have, enough political power to come back home just through force of will. Certainly not as a moral imperative.
But the people who in the past few decades have been buying up property in Oakland or West Oakland or parts of Oakland, are they of European descent or are they of African descent?
Well, it is both.
It is both.
It is both. But I would say there that while there are numerous factors that would distinguish, relative newcomers who have the resources to acquire property, whether that's aggressively or not, it's a professional class that is coming in to do that. It's not a blue-collar working class constituency. And there's a little bit of self-fulfilling prophecy there when someone who has already had property in Oakland but can foresee that they will not be able to afford to keep it, they'll sell, and they're going to sell to the highest bidder. So that pushes the property into the hands of wealthier future owners. So then the hope there is that there will be something taking place concurrently which would inspire newer owners to try to want to take the most valuable aspects of the legacy cultures and build on that to more rapidly establish their newer version, of that neighborhood. They're trying to create community as well. They're not just showing up, from some other city and trying to duplicate that city when they get to Oakland. And because they come from many different directions into Oakland, they do need something that is a practical, unifying influence. And Oakland's culture artistically is incredible. It's responsible for much of the innovation in the music world in America, spanning jazz and hip hop most prominently. And it also has been an amazingly productive city in some other ways, mostly, within the United States, sports and entertainment are the avenues by which people have come to develop a positive, vision of Oakland. But it's the arts that are dramatically influential everywhere. It's hard to imagine life in 2025 in many places around the world, without jazz or hip hop. And those are not just musical idioms, they're actually subcultures. People do understand that stuff largely came or comes from Oakland, not exclusively, but largely. And so it's a big attractor to Oakland.
Can you touch briefly on the Black Panthers, who they were, why they arose, and
Sure.
also their origins in Oakland?
Yeah, the Panthers, which famously have a 10-point plan, is a political party that was formed by two black college students in Oakland. The two guys didn't even go to the same college, but they joined and started the party. And in the official name of the party, it's explicit that it is a party for the self-defense of the party's members and community. That self-defense was about the government, the financial system, and also, to some extent, the really complicated balance of liberalism versus conservatism. And we hear those words all the time now. Today, they don't mean exactly what they meant in the 1960s.
I was going to ask you to maybe define what each of those terms meant then or now, or whichever is more relevant.
Well, I think maybe a broader term that people are familiar with is the civil rights movement in America.
In the 1960s?
In the 1960s. And it was very much aimed at racial discrimination being eliminated by what famously was phrased as by any means necessary. So within the scope of the activities of this new grassroots political party, there were pacifist quarters, there were militant quarters, and a lot of stuff in between. But its primary tenet was that it should be, in the richest country in the world, entirely possible for a black community to be self-sustaining if there were not other forces that were actively preventing that from happening. So the 10-point plan pointed out disproportionate rates of incarceration that needed to stop.
Of African Americans versus other types of people.
Systemic exclusion from education and work. Really,
and also at that time, there was physical separation in business establishments, in schools, in other types of
that's right.
places of work and learning and worship.
Yes.